Good morning. Whether you're on Facebook, listening to us in your car, or watching us on LinkedIn or YouTube, welcome. This is Kat Trulinos with Tada by Kat, Next Level Staging and Design. And we have a Living by Design episode again today, talking about some easy steps that you can take to increase the energy and the harmony within your space, whether it's at home or at work. And without further ado, let me bring in my guest and co-host, Mr. Jeffrey Wong. Jeffrey, where are you? Welcome. Oh, okay, he's not ready. My bad. That's okay. This is the benefit of live. Jeffrey is not ready. So I think there's no one out there who can't benefit from increased energy in our homes. And there we are. Welcome, Jeff.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Good morning. I was a little extra super beat on there. So I don't think there's any of us out there that cannot benefit from increasing the energy within our spaces. And more than ever, I think our interior spaces are sanctuaries where we don't just have shelter and a roof over our head, but we create memories. We spend time, maybe more time working. Maybe we work from home now, have children, grandchildren, family, etc. And it's very easy as we live in our space to sometimes tune out, and we think we're tuning out, but our interior spaces and how the energy is placed or displaced can wreak havoc on many things, our mental state, our health. There's studies out there now that have, supported that, the science and philosophy behind the principles of Feng Shui have an incredible impact on our lives. Many of you may know that, Feng Shui has Chinese, originated in China, I believe it was over 3,000 years ago. And for those of you who don't know, maybe you've heard the word, but you're not really sure what is Feng Shui. It is incorporating the principles of Feng Shui in layout, arrangement of our furniture and decor and space. And it is believed, as mentioned, to attract energy and create a balanced, harmonious atmosphere that, as we've mentioned, can have a positive effect on many areas of your life, such as relationships, career, and obviously your overall well-being. So I'm going to point out just some basic principles, and then we're going to dive deep into and show you some pictures on how you can actually implement this today. They're in some very simple but powerful ways within your home. We're going to focus on the entry, the bedroom, and your office. So we know in this philosophy there should be a balance between yin and yang. Would you agree with that, Jeff? I know you and I talk about yin and yang all the time.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. Because we're constantly balancing. We're both, if you're familiar with the Chinese calendar, this is the year of the dragon, and we're both dragons because there's a 12-year difference between us. So we're constantly feeling that shift and course correcting that shift within our relationship because dragon is a very strong sign, animal sign. So number 2, you need open pathways for energy to flow. Now I want you to take that one in. You need open pathways for energy to flow. And I will tell you that has more to do, we incorporate it when we do staging and design. There's certain fundamentals in design, et cetera, where you need so much space for flow, et cetera. But we need space in our interior spaces, also in our mind. And the really cool thing about Feng Shui concept is that it integrates from the physical spaces to our interior spaces. Number 3, you need to take the command position. And many people, clients and folks who know me, have seen the benefit and results of the command position. And I'm going to share some pictures and examples with you. So stay tuned. If you can't watch this or hear this now, it'll be on the flip side. We're streaming on 7 different sites, and it'll be permanently up on our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, we would love for you to subscribe. We are very excited about bringing topics that will enhance folks' lives. So Tada by Kat at YouTube to subscribe. Little sidetrack there. So taking the command positioning, using the 5 elements, and we're going to talk about the elements. Jeff is going to share the elements that is kind of the blueprint when you dive deep into Feng Shui, and that's the Bagua. And that's the next one, which is Know Your Bagua Map. So if you want to dive deeper into Feng Shui, once you've listened to this episode, please message me. We have a gal who's an expert who's been on our show, and we can share her information with you. We're going to give you some quick, can't say that 3 times, quick tips for Feng Shuiing your house. So stay tuned, because these are going to make powerful changes and with a little effort. And the bottom line is, we're going to teach you how to Feng Shui your place. This is the down and dirty hack for that. So without further ado, Jeff, do you want to talk about the elements? The Feng Shui divides the world into 5 elements, which is wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. And as he's pulling that up, if you've ever had a room that doesn't feel quite right, actually, I've got it here. I can bring it in. If you have a room that doesn't actually, you walk into, you don't know what it is, but it just doesn't feel quite right, you may have an imbalance, because again, Feng Shui is all about balance, is a huge portion of it. You may have an imbalance in one of the elements. So each element invokes a different mood, creating a customized space that's beneficial for your personality and your goals. Now, we're not diving deep in this episode on how to determine that, and I'm not sure if you're versed, Jeff, but we have books on it. There's a way to determine what your element is, and it's based on your birth date. I think it even goes into the time of birth. Does it, Jeff?
I didn't understand what you just said. Sorry.
Okay.
Say that again.
Okay, so the Bagua, to determine and use it as a GPS of sorts for Feng Shui, you can dive deep into the Bagua map, and you can Google it. I have books on it where you put in the formula of your birth date, birth time, if you have it, and it will help you determine what your strongest elements are. In fact, Maureen, and I can't remember her, it's an Italian last name. She's the Feng Shui that we had on as a guest. I think in her book, she has a Q&A that you can go through to determine what your foundational elements are on the Bagua. So what would you like to share with us, Jeff, on the Bagua?
Well, one of the things that the 5 elements, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, or
correct,
dirt. These are, according to the Chinese, we're all connected to. Don't matter what it is. Anything you look, like say we look at the glass, right? How is that to the 5 elements? So metal, well, to blow glass and so forth, you have to use metal to gather the sand and get that hot. So there's that element that ties to the glass. The wood, of course, sand, wood, it's part of nature, earth, and that ties into it. Water, of course, refining the glass. Fire makes the glass from the sand, and of course, the sand is the earth that makes the glass. We could virtually do this with anything, and that's the concept of the five elements is that we're always tied to that. So once we understand that, then it's in sense of feng shui for living space is regards to how the energy flows into that certain area, how you can direct it, how you can deflect, right? So that way, what you don't want, and this is a certain system of belief, that if there's a flow from the bedroom out, then the romance in the relationship suffers. So you would never face the bed out to the door flow.
And I'm going to get into that, Jeff. I actually have diagrams because we're going to talk about the front door. We're going to talk about the bedroom, and we're going to talk about a study or the command position. Now, for those who are listening, because what we can change, what we have to figure out is what we can change to deflect or attract the proper energy for our interior spaces. And energy in Asian culture is called qi. I'm sure you've heard that term, qi. And so our architect or placement isn't always ideal, but we can enhance that or deflect it, rearrange the energy with other things that we put into the space. So let me see if I can pull up the bedroom. Give me a second here.
Did you find it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, just keep in mind that the whole idea behind feng shui is to harmonize your the environment, the fluidity, with the wind, the water,
Exactly. So how do we do that? So it's known in Feng Shui culture that our front door is kind of the mouth of the energy. Okay. So the first tip I'm going to share with you is, have your front door uncluttered. And this is really whether you're staging or designing or living, because you want that mouth of the energy to flow freely. So you don't want it cluttered with too much stuff to where you have to go through an obstacle course to get to the front door. The second thing, and I have a very small front porch, but maybe for those who have a little bit larger, and this is actually an example of a fountain. So to have water flowing at the front door, even if it's like this is a little small Wayfair, very small fountain that you could integrate into the front porch, is also bringing positive chi and energy through the mouth of your space, which is the front door. And we naturally, as human beings, I always wondered why I always need to be around water, whether it's a pool or a fountain or something. I need to have. I feel better. My energy is in a positive space when I'm near water, and I think many of us are like that. That's why there's premiums on water lots, and we love to go to the lake and the beach and everything else, because it is such a positive influence to our psyche, to our energy, to our chi. Absolutely. So I want to talk about next. So that's an easy fix for the front porch. Have it clean, have it not cluttered, and if you can, add water to it. That's a great thing. So I couldn't find the slide earlier, Jeff, but I think I have it right here on the power position for the bedroom. Okay. We are in a position, just because of the layout of the bedroom, that we don't have it ideally set up just because of the layout. But what you can do to deflect that is, at the door you can have chimes, or you could have a green plant. But you ideally, you just don't want the bed in a what do they call it, like straight to the door. But you
Right,
do
facing.
you do want it in a it is again a power position, to where you can see what's going on in the door, who's coming in the door, what's on the other side of the door. So you want some sort of a visual, or power or command position, if at all possible, in the bedroom. And that's probably the biggest and tip for the bedroom. There's many other things, and like I said, if you don't have the perfect layout to accommodate that, you can slow that energy, negative energy down, deflect that energy with other things, such as chimes, such as a small fountain, such as greenery, etc. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let me just kind of clarify it from the Chinese perspective here
Yes,
on
please.
the Feng Shui. Feng Shui literally stands for Feng, wind, or air, and Shui is water. So it's about the
Yes,
flow. The Feng Shui
yes.
in Chinese philosophy is to allow no stagnation, no barriers. You know, so therefore your life force, your health, your wellness, mentally, physically, spiritually, are in a constant movement and flow. So that's why the feng shui aspect of it is been practiced and developed literally into an art. And there's a lot of the martial arts that actually takes the same philosophy behind this too. You know, in regards to flow, be like water, fit. Pour into a glass, become a glass. Pour in the cup, become the cup. Right. So
Right.
the principle of that chi, it's the same thing when we're in martial arts. Is the chi that hits and sends the energy through. That's why when you're asking, like Bruce Lee had a quote in regards to what's the difference between karate versus kung fu, is karate is like hit with an iron bar and it hurts, where kung fu is hit, whipped with a chain, and it hurts inside. So what he
Mm,
means by that literally is the chi itself is transferring, that is, it is so-called in our matrix invisible. You can't really see this, but when you're using chi and you're pushing that force to it, it's much more so-called more strength, more power than the kinetic energy of hitting with your body. So that's the big difference with that. The bakwa, is 8 point, right? So it's octagon. The bakwa is the areas that deals with particularities, you know, in regards to how it works with the chi. And basically, again, it's always about a map. It's like helping you to have a guide in regards to what you're looking for, what you're need to balance out. That's really the key factors of it. You know, let me pull one up. You want to pull up the one you have so we can talk about that or no?
Bagua?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the yin and the yang deals with the center and the health aspect of it. Okay, and then we have the directionals, right? the north, south, east, west, and then the northwest, southeast, and all that. So these are all directions, and in each direction actually gives a so-called association to it. So it deals with the seasons that we go through. It deals with the family, whether it's the feminine, the masculine, the mother and the sister, the father and the brother, the middle son. So there's quite a bit in regards to the bakwa. And when we're looking at this bakwa, it's pretty much westernized for feng shui usage. When you get into deeper Buddhist studies and bakwas that I've seen, this thing is huge and extensive, you know? So it has a lot of different history and different usage to it. And there's the thing in India that has similarity. I forgot what they call that, but it all has a so-called a benefactor of the directional and the channeling of the energy. So bakwa, if you study the bakwa, it helps you to really look at the direction, the season, the benefactory of to where what you want. Am I traveling coming up? How's my family? How's my business, my career? All those things can tie into the bakwa. And then, of course, the 5 elements that deals with exactly what we talked about, how it associates and how it parlays to everything is created in where we have in this reality. So I hope that helps quite a bit in regards to understand the history of the bakwa, the history of how the Chinese really reveres feng shui. I mean, this is something that in America, when we buy a house, you have some people asking for it, right? We deal with Indian community. What they always like is facing east because of their worship, and you will find that that certain religions have a certain criteria that they use that's borrowed from feng shui, but not necessarily used as feng shui. Have you seen that?
That's a good point that you bring up, Jeff, because many know that I've been in real estate, new home sales, and now staging and design. But depending on the ethnicity, the Indian ethnicity has a different, like the front door direction is different for them than for the traditional feng shui Asian. So it really does depend on somewhat on the culture. There are differences. So I want to get through some more points here, and we're at 22 minutes. So I'm going to continue on the power position because this one I've used multiple times to help clients. And it's the power position of the desk or the office. Okay. Mm-hmm. We had a client, I had a client that was, did a lot of work from home and just never felt right. And they didn't know why. And so we started off with a Zoom consultation. And the first thing I spotted was you've got your back to the door. And mm-hmm. just by switching the desk around, putting it catty corner, facing the door, made just a transformative difference in how this individual felt in their space. And they work, from home, I think 3 out of the 5 days. So I can't encourage you enough. That's usually a pretty easy, simple fix. Either put your desk in a catty corner or an angle to where you can see the door. It's the power position, the command position. Easy peasy. You can do it right now. So right. The next thing I want to scoot over to is, clutter. We have a saying in staging, and that is clutter eats equity. In fact, I think that's a Barbism. The creator of home staging coined that term, and it does. Clutter eats equity. Now, there was a joke many years ago about, I bought a very expensive clothes rack. There That's it right. is.
Yeah.
And I literally, this is not fake. I've seen one that was very organized. She had poles across with hangers. So she actually made clothes rods all across there. Very
Yeah.
efficient. But we definitely needed to move that out of the living room.
Here's a nugget for you. I read Joe DiMaggio's biography, and when Joe, in his later years living in Florida in the condominiums, he had a treadmill clothes hanger.
Yeah. Oh,
We're talking
yeah,
about
I
Joe
mean,
DiMaggio here.
Joe DiMaggio, there you go. It obviously didn't help or hurt his performance, in sports, but definitely it can definitely well, let's actually talk about the benefits and detriments. So, you
Well,
might say,
that
oh
was
yeah,
it. I think it's ignorance. You know what I mean? People
well, I'm
clutter
not going to
because
call
of
anybody
ignorance.
ignorant. I want to talk about the psychological effects. And again, they have studies that support this, that if your interior space is a disarray, you will feel unsettled, you can't focus, and it makes it harder to sleep. I know that's a huge problem in this country, people having a hard time, sleeping. And in part, it's, I think, of all the EMFs and the electronics, et cetera. But having things a disarray, I know me, I'm very sensitive to it. Jeff knows, I'll okay, it's time to pick up the clutter because it's really starting to affect my performance, my quality of how I live. And especially when you work from home, you dual purpose. You might be doing a report or a quote one minute and you're emptying the dishwasher the next. So do yourself a favor and get rid of the treadmill in the bedroom. You'll be glad you did.
Yes.
So we talked about clutter. We have a kind of a rule of thumb, and I'm going to bring this one on. This is a very nice styled shelving. I like how they took a basket and put the books in it backwards, so you just saw the spines. Again, what that does is it relieves what I call visual cacophony, to where you're not, having to look all over and process so many different colors and things. So this one is styled. Obviously, it's not hugely functional. There are some books, but there's greenery, and we're going to talk about that. So power position, we talked about in both the bedroom and the study, decluttering. And you know what? I just did a talk to a ladies group, and we talked about downsizing and decluttering, and that can be a whole episode in and of itself, because it can be difficult for, sentimental items and so on and so forth. But what I have found works best is just chunking it down to, you know what, I'm going to do one corner, or I'm going to do one drawer, or I'm going to do one shelf. For me, I have a goal this week. I change it every week. This week's goal is to add to the donation bag, whether it's clothing or stuff, 8 items per day for 7 days. That's my Holy Week commitment to upcycling, recycling, minimizing, and feng shuiing my space. Yeah. Because I know, like many others, it's so easy to just gather and accumulate too much stuff.
Right.
And I think most people would agree. There is no big, dark secret why there are so many storage buildings going up. These people are making tons of money off of our stuff, off of our overconsumerism and junk. So don't get me started on that. This is another one I want to share. Now, this is more functional, right? Wouldn't you say, Jeff? This is a little bit more functional, but very well done. When we stage, I tell my team, or the sellers, get rid of 2/3, leave 1/3, because you're selling the space and you want the space to breathe. And that's really what it's all about in this element of feng shuiing your home, is is creating energy, creating space, and letting the space breathe so that it allows and attracts and welcomes in new, hopefully not new stuff. That's what Jeff used to tell me. Get rid of that. That'll make room for more stuff. And I
Yes.
kept him to his word. But
Right.
it opens up the channels to the unexpected, to synchronicities, to serendipities, to new thoughts, new creative thoughts and ideas that your senses really didn't have time for, whether you knew it or not, because subliminally you were processing all the stuff. So back to
Yep.
this picture, I really like this because you can see there's a sitting chair. You can kick your feet up, do some reading, have a cup of tea or coffee. There's baskets all the same on top that hold, probably small tchotchke stuff that they don't use as often. And then there's some, decor. They've switched it up. And here, when we talk about elements in design and decor, you want to mix up glass, wood, fabric, ceramic, rattan. This helps to create a cohesive balance, even before that you're a water wood or a earth metal or what have you. It will help create a balance. When you dive further, then you can get into what I call corrective Feng Shuiing. But right now we're talking about basic overall transformative Feng Shuiing that will make a difference in your space. Any thoughts on that, Jeff?
Well, no, I think you pretty much stated well. I
Oh, thank
would
you.
encourage folks that interested into maximizing their living space with the feng shui principle to do a little research. Let me just go ahead and bring up to our viewers that in the past we had two very knowledgeable guests. One was Jenny Hones, and Jenny was a feng shui specialist and has written books about it. The other one is Maureen Calamina.
Yes, Calamia. Yeah.
Yeah,
And Jenny
she
Holmes. Yeah.
does.
Hi to both.
Yeah, she has a full education service as well as a feng shui service. So there are specialists out there to help. But if you took the Bakwa and read the principle of it and understand just exactly how you can utilize, like for instance, East. East is very powerful. That's the beginning. I mean, the everyday starts with East. So the East side deals with health and family, especially health. So if you sat down and did prayers facing east and bring that flow of that energy in, bring the light in, this is going to help your living space and your consciousness and your well-being quite a bit. And it's not something that you just do and 5 minutes later you're going, oh, this is fantastic, I feel it. No, just don't expect immediate gratification, because most people tend to be, well, it's not working, and stop, not recognizing that you have stagnant energy throughout your house that you're going to have to slowly but surely redirect some of these stagnant corners or hallways and whatnot. But to understand the principle of the bakwa and to look at what is influencing for you, and then just picking up ideas like the water flowing in the walkway. The water treatment should not be so close to your back door, like your pool butt up to your house. That's not really good feng shui. That is actually running your luck out, you know? And a lot of folks are thinking, would just go, well, you know what? I don't trust life with luck. And this is something, yeah, I get it. Everybody has their own paradigm and belief systems in regards to how they operate day to day. But I'm going to tell you, thousands of years of practice of a certain system, you have to really honor this in the sense of, just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. There is a lot of stuff on this planet that we have been kind of steered away from. And the reason behind is there's a lot of mysticism, woo woo, that they brought into the consciousness by using propaganda, television, movies, and whatnots. And prior to this century of that kind of paradigm shifts in basically erasing some of these historical ancient knowledge or just practicality of daily wellness is lost in our culture. So I encourage everyone, to, if you're not 100% happy with everything moving in your life, look into this. Look into Feng Shui. Look into the power of what is being offered to you with the energy of the earth, the universe, everything that we're involved in.
Absolutely. And I love that, Jeff. And it's really the power of the unseen. And I think we've all been so inundated, to out here, look out here. What do other people want from us? What are other people wearing? What are other people doing? What kind of job should I have? Where should I go to school? That we've been just roboticized, if you will, to look out there and really discredit the power of things unseen. And you've heard me say before, and we'll have segments on it, the power of thought. Can't always control the first thought, but I can control the second thought. Our thoughts are the most powerful, whether it's thought in prayer, whether it's, the 60,000 or so thoughts that we have a day. They are manifesting our reality, and we are so much more powerful than we ever realized. I'm going to jump right into, because I have a couple more points, Jeff, and this one's close to my heart, and that is greenery. Adding greenery to your space. Now, there's been studies shown, and I know I have some friends who, plastico, no plastic. It doesn't make sense for us to stage with real plants because of the care. But oddly enough, they've done studies that even faux, and we just use quality faux greenery in staging, has a beneficial effect on the psyche when people walk in and they see greenery. Yeah. Now, for our home and for the Feng Shui ability and the Feng Shuiing our home, I recommend the real deal. Now, if you're like me and you don't want to kill the plant, but you might, this plant right here, which is a sword plant, is a common name. I think some people have even coined it mother-in-law tongue, which is kind of gnarly, but it is wonderful. I just saw a thing on Instagram where you can propagate them by cutting off a leaf, cutting a V in it, sticking it in water. It'll root and they will multiply. Excuse me. So we are actually I'm looking for 3 of them to act as a screen to my office, because as you walk in, it's open, rather than having a structure. So the benefit is not only to our psyche, but it brings in carbon monoxide and health benefits, purifying benefits, particularly this plant. And you can Google to see which others, but this is the sword plant is like right on top. It's the best of every world because it's low maintenance, doesn't need a lot of water, doesn't need a lot of attention, thrives on neglect, and gives you so much. So don't forget plants when you're looking to Feng Shui your home.
Absolutely. And the benefit of having plants, of course, is oxygen, fresh oxygen.
Absolutely. It oxygenates the space. Yes. What did I say? Carbon dioxide. It oxygenates the space.
Yeah. It takes in your carbon that you're breathing out, and that's fueling the
and gives you back oxygen.
The trees and the plants. And that's the beauty of, nature. When we look at the whole entire big picture, it's about energy, and it's about bringing in the harmonization of the proper energy to effectively give you the best so-called experience. That's really the way to look at it,
It absolutely is.
I mean, we talk about this all the time, free energy or let's get energy that is not harmful to the earth. Everybody throws out the word energy corridor, energy this, energy that, but it's all man-made. stuff that they never talk about, the stuff that the great universe and God grants you, right? And this is the key point that I think that our show is really wanting everybody to kind of understand, that the energy not only comes from our space, but it comes from us as magnets that draws us into it. And I'm going to tell a real quick story in regards to how much this energy and how it affected me. I went through a bout of anemia again, and I go through the periods of this in my life for the last 3-4 decades. I don't know why. No Western medicine has ever gave me a proper diagnosis. So this time around, I'm not going to the doctor. I'm not going to go get blood transfusion with all the stuff that's going on with the nanos and all that. I focused on healing using personal power of energy. And mind you, when I'm sick, I have very little energy. However, by attracting as much as I can, it start to restore. Yeah, it took a little time, but I'm going to tell you what, didn't go to the doctor, didn't do blood transfusion, didn't take medicine, didn't do any of that, and I'm 100% healed.
Amen. And I'm so happy for that. And that's a whole nother episode that we need to do, really, Jeff, on healing, because the body has its own incredible pharmaceutical within this body form.
That's right.
But, you know, big pharma.
And part, I think, in sense of the living space, because we, you know, you have designed our living space in such a nice, glorious way. It's like, you know, it's the most peaceful environment. And it's like being in heaven, literally. Oh. You know, because our living space is, it's almost pure white and gold. It's like walking into palace.
It's not gold.
Well, I mean, you know, the lighting and the certain decor, and you know, that's what I'm saying. That this isn't a house that you walk into and is painted black and red, that is dark, that is, you know, there was a purposeful use of the directional energy. Which
yes, and we don't have time on this show, but light we didn't talk about. You talked about light. You know, yes. Light is so important and critical in creating positive energy, and that's something that we needed to do because of the way. So that was a Feng Shui correction for us. We spent quite an investment on bringing in can lights because of the way our home sits and all of the beautiful trees, it makes it quite dark, which can affect your chi, and it did affect our chi. We noticed immediately the difference, and of course always have them all put on dimmers, which we did, so that you can control that ambiance. But that was the best investment ever to counteract the situation of where the home sat and how it made it so dark. So yeah, lighting is critical. So I'm going to end with the toilet, one of my favorites here, Jeff, because this is one of my pet peeves when I go into homes and I see usually the housekeepers have put it up. I think it's because they want people to know that they cleaned the toilet. But this is not good Feng Shui. It's letting energy, and in some philosophies, it's letting your abundance and your wealth go down the drain. So you want the toilet always, always, always to be closed. In fact, I did a segment on Instagram, I think, on this, because we do pay attention to the details on this. Yes. Right? So yes. I'm going to end with that. And I just want to wish everybody a happy Friday. We thank you for tuning in to today's episode where we explored the intricate and Asian art of Feng Shui. And thank you so much for your contribution, Jeff, on that, and how it can potentially harmonize our spaces and our lives. So as we bid you farewell on Good Friday, may the principles of balance and positive energy guide your path. Remember, whether you're rearranging furniture or rearranging your thoughts, as we talked about, we wish that your journey towards harmony be as transformative as the energies that we discussed today. So we wish you a blessed Good Friday and a weekend filled with serenity and peace. And until next time, stay aligned and stay inspired. And goodbye for now. We'll see you next week.
Have a